What comes to mind when you hear the word Egypt? For me, it's pyramids, those gigantic stone puzzles that somehow don't make sense. Even though I've seen them a dozen times in documentaries, how did they move those giant rocks? You can even visit them for yourself in games like Assassin's Creed Origins. But of course, no mention of Egypt is complete without pyramids. Yet even today, archaeologists debate how these massive stone giants were raised. Were stones hauled on sledges across wet sand? Were hidden ramps spiraled around the structures? What we do know is that armies of laborers, not slaves, but conscripted workers, sweated season after season. Bread, beer, and onions were their fuel as they inched stone blocks weighing tons into place. The pyramids endure as mysteries, not only of engineering, but of human determination. Each stone carries with it the silent voices of countless workers, their names mostly lost to time. Now picture the world on the other side of Egypt's social divide. Inside the palaces of the pharaohs, life sparkled with perfumes, fine linen, carved ivory, and banquets where music echoed through painted halls. Servants fanned the nobles with ostrich feathers as they dined on honey cakes, roast goose, and sweet wine. This was a life that seemed untouched by hardship, though it was built on the backs of the many who toiled in the fields. Farmers raised the grain, stonecutters built the tombs, and artisans painted the gods on palace walls. But only a chosen few enjoyed the sweetness of luxury. Ancient Egypt, a land where the mighty river Nile danced with life. Imagine strolling along its banks, watching fishermen cast their nets and farmers till the soil. Life here revolved around the Nile's rhythms, its floods that nourished the land and its bounty that fed the people. The year 3000 BC saw the rise of a new kingdom along these banks, a kingdom destined to become one of the world's first great civilizations. As you delve into the heart of ancient Egypt, you'll encounter a society rigidly divided. On one side, the pharaoh, seen as a god on earth, held absolute power. Below him, a hierarchy of officials and priests wielded influence and wealth. Then came the scribes, the record keepers, and the artisans, each playing a part in keeping the wheels of this ancient world turning. But the majority of Egyptians were farmers, their lives deeply entwined with the Nile's every flood and ebb. They paid taxes in grain and labor, ensuring the pharaoh's monumental projects continued. These projects included grand temples, towering pyramids, and sprawling palaces. The Egyptians believed in an afterlife, a journey the deceased pharaoh would undertake with the help of his faithful servants. This belief led to the mummification of pharaohs and the construction of elaborate tombs filled with treasures meant to sustain them in their journey. But let's shift our gaze to the other side of the social divide, where life was vastly different. Imagine living in a world where the smallest misstep could mean eviction, where the threat of famine loomed, and where your fate was often decided by the whims of a king or queen. This was the reality for most Egyptians. Despite the grandeur of the monuments they built and the wealth of their rulers, most Egyptians lived hand to mouth. Life was hard, often brutal, and the gap between the privileged few and the struggling many was stark. In this world of ancient Egypt, the pharaoh's wife Nefertiti held considerable power. Her beauty was legendary, her influence undeniable. But even she had to navigate a world of courtly intrigue, where rivals whispered in the shadows and every decision carried great weight. As the sun sets over the Nile, casting long shadows on the riverbanks, consider this. Ancient Egypt, with all its wonders, also had its share of ordinary people, just like you and me. There were merchants haggling over prices in bustling markets, fishermen mending their nets after a long day on the water, and mothers teaching their children the skills they need to survive in a world that offered little safety net. In the grand tapestry of ancient Egypt, it's easy to get lost in the tales of pharaohs and pyramids. But don't forget the ordinary people whose lives, though less glamorous, were the very fabric that held this ancient civilization together. Whichever path you choose, know that the story of ancient Egypt is more than just pharaohs and pyramids. It's a story of people, their triumphs and struggles, their loves and losses, their faiths and their fears. It's a story that echoes through time, reminding us that even in the face of adversity, the human spirit can create wonders. Beneath the shadow of the Great Pyramids, ancient Egypt might seem like an eternal kingdom of splendor. But even the mightiest empires have their secrets buried beneath the sands of time. As we peel back the layers of this ancient past, we find echoes of our own struggles in their stories of ambition, betrayal, and life on the brink. Akhenaten, King Tut's father, was once a pharaoh known as Amenhotep IV. He took the throne at 15, then set about changing everything. He changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning the living Aten. He moved his empire's capital to Amarna, Dawn. And most shockingly, he abandoned Egypt's traditional gods for a single sun disk named Aten. Imagine being a priest of Ra, the sun god, or Rahatep, the creator god, and hearing the king declare that only Aten is real. Such a drastic shift did not come without its critics. Akhenaten shut down temples to Ammon, demanding that Aten be worshipped instead. Priests lost their jobs and their influence. The old ways of life were abandoned. But why would a young king risk upsetting his people so dramatically? History tells us that Akhenaten wasn't just a heretic pharaoh. He was also a reformer. His empire was corrupt and inefficient, so he attempted to centralize power in Amarna. He reduced the influence of local governors and appointed officials based on merit rather than family ties. He introduced accounting rules and established courts to settle disputes, but these changes weren't popular. Many Egyptians were suspicious of Akhenaten's motives. Why did he build a new capital and abandon the old ways? Why did he demand absolute obedience? Was he mad or simply power-hungry? These questions echoed through history, making Akhenaten a controversial figure. Even his own family turned against him. When he died, his wife, Nefertiti, and his advisors took the throne, erasing his legacy from the historical record. It was as if Akhenaten never existed. Most of his temples were destroyed and his name was taken off monuments. Only a few years after his death, his son, Smenkhare, came to power and restored the old religion. Akhenaten's dream of a new Egypt faded like a mirage in the desert. Yet his story helps us understand the hidden realities of ancient Egypt. It wasn't just a land of pyramids and pharaohs. It was also a place where people questioned authority, where rulers faced opposition, and where the course of history hung in the balance between tradition and change. But what about those magnificent pyramids? How were they built, and why? We often think of them as eternal symbols of ancient Egypt, but beneath their enduring presence lies a story of innovation, engineering, and Herculean effort. The construction of the pyramids was a monumental undertaking, requiring immense planning and organization. Thousands of workers toiled for decades to build these massive structures. But despite their grandeur, pyramids were not immune to the passage of time. Over the centuries, they have weathered erosion, earthquakes, and human activity. In fact, many pyramids are missing their outer casing, revealing the rough stone core beneath. Some have been damaged by treasure hunters seeking valuable artifacts within. The most iconic structure in Egypt has suffered its share of neglect, yet even in their damaged state. The pyramids stand as a testament to the ingenuity and perseverance of ancient Egyptian engineers. But why were they built? Well, the answer lies in the heart of the desert. Deep in the Egyptian desert, far from the bustling markets of Cairo, there is a small village named Dashur. It might seem like an ordinary place, but it holds a secret that connects it to the grandeur of the pyramids. You see, Dashur was once the home of the first pyramid ever built, and it reveals the fascinating evolution of these iconic structures. At first glance, the pyramids of Dashur look like mysterious relics from a distant past, but as you explore their chambers and passageways, you uncover a story of innovation and adaptation. The bent pyramid, so named for its unique tilt, shows how builders adjusted their techniques as they went higher. Meanwhile, the red pyramid, with its steeper slopes, reflects a desire to create a grander, more imposing structure. Exploring these pyramids gives us insight into the evolution of pyramid building, but there's more to Dashur than just pyramids. The site also includes a sprawling complex of temples, workshops, and administrative buildings. These ruins hint at the massive workforce that lived and worked nearby. And while we often think of pyramid builders as slaves or prisoners, evidence suggests that many were skilled laborers who took pride in their work. They weren't just building tombs, they were creating lasting legacies for the pharaohs. And as we wander through the ruins of Dashur, we can't help but wonder about the lives of the people who lived here. Where did they come from? What was their daily life like? And how did they feel about the giant pyramids they helped create? Sadly, their stories have been lost to time. But by piecing together the fragments of their world, we can get a glimpse of the human drama that unfolded beneath the shadow of the pyramids. We often picture ancient Egypt as a timeless realm of unchanging traditions. But the story of Akhenaten, the mystery of the pyramids, and the life of ordinary Egyptians show us a different side of this ancient civilization. It was a place where even kings could be challenged, and where monumental changes could be made in a moment's notice. Beneath the desert sands lay a world of innovation, ambition, and resilience. A world that continues to fascinate and inspire us today. Thanks for joining me on this journey through ancient Egypt. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to stay tuned for more adventures in history. Until next time, keep asking questions and exploring the world around you. Who knows what amazing discoveries you might make?